You want a brand new Tesla and an upgrade to a luxury penthouse? Or you are never sleeping in the same bed as me again? That was the exact ultimatum my fiancé delivered to me on a random Tuesday evening, completely deadpan, while sipping a $12 iced matcha latte that I had just paid for. My name is David, I'm 32 years old, and until a few months ago, I was a senior IT director working myself into an early grave so the woman I loved could live out her viral internet aesthetic. I want you to picture the scene. I had just walked through the door of our overpriced downtown apartment after a 14-hour shift. My eyes were burning from staring at lines of code and emergency server logs since 6 a.m. My phone was still buzzing in my pocket with furious Slack messages from a completely detached corporate executive team. My blood pressure was a ticking time bomb. I was the textbook definition of millennial burnout. All I wanted, all I genuinely craved, was to hug the woman I was going to marry, eat some cheap takeout, and collapse into a coma for 8 hours. Instead, I found Sarah, 29, sitting on our velvet sofa, illuminated by the glow of her iPad, scrolling endlessly through TikTok. When I leaned in to kiss her forehead, she literally physically recoiled. She put her hand flat against my chest and pushed me back like I was a stranger cornering her in a subway station. "Don't," she said. Her voice didn't have anger in it. It had something much worse. It had complete, calculated indifference. "I'm not doing this anymore, David. I'm not doing the whole dutiful, physically affectionate girlfriend routine while I'm living below my standard." I just stood there, my heavy laptop bag sliding off my shoulder and hitting the hardwood floor with a thud. "Below your standard? Sarah, we live in a $3,000 a month apartment. I pay for 90% of our expenses, while you work part-time as a freelance social media consultant." She rolled her eyes, unlocking her iPad and shoving the screen in my face. A video was playing of some 20-something influencer lounging by a private pool, text hovering over the screen about knowing your worth and living the soft life. "You don't get it," Sarah sighed, looking at me like I was a slow child. "I've been doing a lot of inner work. I realize that I'm operating in my masculine energy by stressing over our future and accepting a mediocre lifestyle. I am stepping into my soft life era. I require a partner who is a high-value provider. So until you upgrade my car to a Tesla Model Y and we move to that luxury high-rise in the Arts District, physical intimacy is completely off the table. I'm setting a boundary. My body, my access, is a privilege reserved for a man who treats me like a prize." My brain, already fried from a day of putting out digital fires, short-circuited. I was waiting for the punchline. I was waiting for her to laugh, call me an idiot, and ask what we were ordering for dinner. But she didn't. She just stared at me, completely serious, expecting me to panic. She expected me to grovel. She thought I was so terrified of losing her, so desperate for her physical affection, that I would instantly calculate how many more hours of overtime I needed to grind to buy her a $60,000 car I couldn't afford. And right there, in the span of maybe 15 seconds, something inside me just snapped. It wasn't a loud, violent snap. It was a quiet, profound realization. The heavy fog of exhaustion that had been suffocating me for the last 3 years suddenly lifted. I looked at this woman, the woman I had bought a $10,000 engagement ring for, the woman whose student loans I had helped pay off, the woman who watched me lose 15 pounds from stress over the last 6 months and never once asked if I was okay. She didn't see me as a human being. She didn't see me as a partner fighting a war in the corporate trenches to build a life for us. She saw me as an ATM, and right now, the ATM wasn't dispensing enough cash, so she was cutting off the only leverage she thought she had. Most guys would have screamed. Most guys would have thrown her iPad across the room, or cried, or started a massive screaming match about the logistics of the patriarchy and modern entitlement. I didn't do any of that. I looked at her, let out a slow, deep breath, and felt an eerie, absolute calm wash over my entire body. "Okay," I said. My voice was dangerously quiet. Sarah blinked, clearly thrown off by my lack of resistance. "Okay? What do you mean, okay?" "I mean, I respect your boundaries," I replied, picking up my laptop bag. "If you don't want to share a bed or be intimate until I buy you a Tesla and a penthouse, I completely understand. You shouldn't do anything you don't want to do. I'll take the guest room starting tonight." I walked past her, leaving her sitting on the sofa looking utterly confused. She had prepared for a battle. She had prepared her little buzzwords: gaslighting, toxic masculinity, bare minimum. But you can't fight a war when the other side refuses to show up to the battlefield. As I closed the door to the guest bedroom, I opened my laptop. I wasn't opening it to check our savings account to see if I could afford a down payment on an electric vehicle. I was opening it to draft an email to my vice president. The subject line read, Resignation of Senior Director Position, Request for Immediate Transfer to Remote Support. Sarah wanted to play a high-stakes game of leverage. She thought she was holding all the cards, but she completely forgot one crucial detail. I was the one funding the casino. And I was about to cash out all my chips. When my finger hovered over the send button for that resignation email, my heart was hammering against my ribs, but the moment I clicked it, the silence in that guest room was deafening. For the first time in 3 years, the crushing weight on my chest, the invisible elephant of corporate burnout and financial anxiety, just vanished. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up until 4 a.m., not stressing, but planning. I built a spreadsheet. I called it Project Soft Landing. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen. Sarah was already there, wearing a silk robe she'd bought with my credit card, frothing oat milk for her morning aesthetic vlog. She didn't look up when I walked in. She was playing her role perfectly, the unbothered, high-value woman waiting for her provider to crack. "Did you sleep well in the guest room?" she asked, her tone dripping with fake sweetness. She was waiting for the apology. She was waiting for me to hand her a brochure for a Tesla. I poured myself a simple cup of black coffee. Honestly, Sarah, it was the best sleep I've had in years. Her jaw tightened just a fraction of an inch, but she quickly recovered, tossing her hair over her shoulder. "Well, get used to it. Boundaries are boundaries. I'm going to a mid-morning Pilates class, then getting lunch with the girls to talk about manifesting our dream lives. Leave your Amex on the counter. I need to pick up some new workout sets." I took a slow sip of my coffee. "Take your own card, Sarah. Mine is maxed out from paying the annual property taxes yesterday." "It was a lie, but it worked," she scoffed. Grabbed her own debit card, which was tied to a meager account she barely maintained, and stormed out, slamming the door. At 9:30 a.m., my phone rang. It was Rob, the VP of Engineering. He was in full panic mode. "David, what is this email? You're stepping down? You're our lead director. We have the Q3 launch in a month. If this is about money, we can talk bonuses." "Rob," I interrupted, my voice completely steady. "It's not about money. My blood pressure is 150/95. I haven't taken a weekend off since 2023. I am done. I am legally requesting a step down to the Tier 2 remote database admin role. I know it's a 50% pay cut. I know I lose my executive stock options, but I want a strict 9 to 5, work from home schedule starting Monday. If you can't approve it, consider this my 2 weeks notice." There was a long pause on the line. Rob knew I wasn't bluffing. "All right, David," he sighed. "I'll call HR, but you realize you're throwing away a massive career trajectory here, right?" "I'm buying back my life, Rob," I said, and hung up. Step 1 was complete. I was officially a low-level, low-stress employee. Step 2 was the finances. On my lunch break, I drove to a completely different bank across town. I sat down with a teller and opened a solo checking and high-yield savings account under my name only. I updated my company's payroll portal to reroute 100% of my new, much smaller paycheck into the secret account. For the next 3 weeks, living with Sarah was like participating in a bizarre psychological experiment. Because I wasn't fighting her, she genuinely believed her soft life ultimatum was working. She thought my silence was submission. She thought my refusal to argue was me processing my toxic masculine ego. She started doubling down. She posted TikToks with captions like, "When you finally stop settling and watch him step up to your level." She brought home glossy brochures for luxury apartments in the Arts District and left them conspicuously on the kitchen island. She even started talking about what color Tesla she wanted, matte black with the white interior, obviously. And every night, I quietly went to the guest room, locked the door, and logged into my new remote job. I worked my steady 8 hours in pajamas, closed my laptop at exactly 5 p.m., and spent my evenings doing things I hadn't done in years. I read books, I started doing push-ups, I cooked my own simple meals. The dark circles under my eyes started fading. I felt human again. But a ticking clock was echoing in the background. Our lease on the $3,000 a month downtown apartment was up for renewal in exactly 14 days. The leasing office had emailed me the renewal contract, stating that if we didn't sign by the 15th of the month, we had to vacate by the 30th. Sarah, who never checked the shared email account because handling logistics wasn't part of her feminine energy, had no idea. On the 14th of the month, a Tuesday, Sarah walked into the kitchen and dropped a custom Tesla dealership card on my keyboard. The sales rep is named Michael, she said smoothly. He's holding a matte black Model Y for us. I expect it in the parking garage by Friday, David. Or my boundaries become permanent. I looked at the glossy card, then looked up at her perfectly contoured face. Friday, I repeated softly. Friday, she confirmed, smirking like she had just won the lottery. She turned and practically skipped out of the apartment for another spa day. As soon as the front door clicked shut, I opened the email from the leasing office. I hovered my mouse over the bright red button that read, Decline Renewal, Notice to Vacate. I clicked it. Sarah wanted a soft life. She was about to get a very hard reality check. Clicking that red Decline Renewal button felt like defusing a bomb with 1 second left on the clock. But the explosion wasn't avoided. It was just rescheduled for Friday. I had exactly 14 days to completely erase my existence from this city, and I had to do it right under the nose of a woman who thought she was a master manipulator. The logistics of ghosting your own life are surprisingly complicated, but I approached it with the exact same hyper-focus I used to apply to multi-million-dollar server migrations. Only this time, the project was my own freedom. My first move was securing a landing zone. I didn't want another overpriced concrete box in a coastal city. I wanted trees. I wanted silence. Within 48 hours, using my new remote job as proof of income, I signed a 6-month lease on a small, one-bedroom cabin nestled in the foothills of Oregon. The rent? $900 a month. Compared to the $3,000 I was currently bleeding out, it felt like free money. The hardest part was the physical packing. How do you move out of a shared apartment without the person living there noticing? It turned out to be painfully easy because Sarah's narcissism was the perfect blindfold. She was so consumed by her soft life aesthetic that she literally stopped perceiving anything that didn't directly benefit her. She stopped coming into the guest room entirely, calling it my low vibration space. That was fine by me. It gave me the perfect staging area. I realized I didn't want most of the junk we had accumulated anyway. I didn't need the massive 4K curved monitors or the designer suits I bought just to fit in with the corporate executive crowd. While Sarah was out at overpriced cafes, drinking $12 green juices and discussing manifestation with her equally delusional friends, I was ruthlessly liquidating my life. I sold my expensive gaming rig, my watches, and half my wardrobe on online marketplaces, having buyers meet me at the coffee shop down the street. Every dollar went straight into my new, hidden high-yield savings account. Whatever was left, I packed into 2 large duffel bags. That was it. My entire 32 years of existence condensed into what could fit in the trunk of my 7-year-old Honda Civic. Meanwhile, the psychological theater playing out in our living room was reaching levels of absolute absurdity. Because I wasn't arguing, because I was calmly working my new 9-to-5 remote job behind a closed door, Sarah was convinced her ultimatum had broken me. She thought I was working overtime to secure her dream life. One Tuesday afternoon, just 3 days before the deadline, I walked into the kitchen to grab a glass of water. Sarah was standing by the kitchen island, unpacking a cardboard box with frantic excitement. "Look," she said, holding up what looked like 2 custom-stitched blush pink leather headrest covers. "What are those?" I asked, keeping my voice entirely neutral. "They're for the Tesla," she beamed, her eyes sparkling with greed. "I ordered them custom from an Etsy shop in LA. They cost me $400, but I wanted the interior to match my brand aesthetic when I do my Drive With Me vlogs. The matte black exterior with the pink accents inside, it's going to go incredibly viral." I looked at the pink leather. I looked at her. She was spending her own rapidly depleting credit limit on accessories for a $60,000 car that existed only in her imagination. "They look great, Sarah," I said smoothly. "Very on brand." She smirked, tossing her hair. "I know. Oh, by the way, I told Michael at the dealership that we'll be by at 4 p.m. on Friday to sign the papers and take delivery. Don't schedule any meetings." "I won't," I promised. And it wasn't a lie. I had already taken Friday completely off. That evening, the final nail in the coffin arrived in our shared email inbox. It was an automated message from the leasing office, move-out checklist and key return instructions. It explicitly stated that all belongings had to be removed and the keys surrendered by 5 p.m. on Friday. Otherwise, a daily penalty fee of $200 would apply. I quickly archived the email before she could see it, though honestly, she hadn't checked that inbox since 2022. Thursday night arrived, the calm before the storm. Sarah was practically vibrating with excitement. She spent 3 hours in the bathroom doing a full self-care routine, exfoliating, self-tanning, applying a face mask, preparing to film her picking up my new Tesla video the next day. When she finally emerged, smelling of expensive coconut lotion, she leaned against the doorframe of the guest room. She looked at me sitting on the edge of the bare mattress. My laptop closed, my two duffel bags were already hidden in the trunk of my car downstairs. The room was completely devoid of my presence, but she didn't even notice. You know, David, she said, her voice dripping with that sickening pseudo-therapist tone she learned from TikTok. I want to thank you. I looked up. For what? For doing the work, she smiled, a predatory little curve of her lips. For swallowing your ego and stepping up to your masculine responsibilities. Tomorrow is going to be the start of our real life. The life I deserve. You're right, I replied, maintaining absolute eye contact. Tomorrow, you are going to get exactly what you deserve. She blew me a kiss and walked to the master bedroom, shutting the door. As soon as I heard the lock click, I stood up. I walked out to the kitchen island, right next to her ridiculous pink leather headrest covers. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a thick manila envelope. I placed it directly in the center of the counter, right where she would find it when she came out for her morning matcha latte. Then, I quietly grabbed my car keys, walked out the front door, and didn't look back. At exactly 10:15 a.m. on Friday morning, I was sitting on the wooden porch of my new cabin, 200 miles away, drinking a 90-cent cup of homemade coffee. The air smelled like pine trees and absolute freedom. Then, my phone screen lit up. It was a FaceTime call from Sarah. I didn't answer it. I just watched her customized contact photo flash on the screen. It rang, and rang, and rang. In the span of exactly 4 minutes, I received 22 text messages, 14 missed calls, and 3 frantic voicemails. The unbothered, high-value woman aesthetic had officially shattered. I took a slow sip of my coffee, tapped the screen, and played the first voicemail on speaker. David, where the hell are you? I just woke up and there's a manila envelope on the counter. What is this notice to vacate paper? It says we have to hand over the keys by 5 p.m. today or face a $200 daily fine. Are you insane? Call me back right now. I smiled, listening to the sheer panic vibrating in her voice, but she hadn't even reached the best part yet. I played the second voicemail, recorded 2 minutes later. David, I just called Michael at the Tesla dealership. He literally laughed at me. He said you never even filled out a credit application. There's no car. I have my vlog scheduled for 1 p.m. I already told all my followers I'm picking up my Model Y today. You are publicly humiliating me. Where is your direct deposit? I tried to transfer money from the joint account to pay for my blowout, and it's empty. Call me. The third voicemail wasn't screaming. It was hyperventilating. The reality of the situation was finally crashing down on her carefully curated internet delusion. At 10:25 a.m., the phone rang again. This time, I hit accept. Hello, Sarah, I said. My voice was as calm as the forest around me. What did you do? She shrieked, her voice cracking so hard the phone speaker distorted. You emptied our accounts. You canceled our lease. You left me here with nothing. This is financial abuse, David. You are gaslighting me. Stop using TikTok therapy words you don't understand, Sarah, I interrupted, my tone slicing through her hysteria like ice. There is no abuse. There is only a direct consequence of the boundaries you explicitly set. What are you talking about? She sobbed. I set boundaries for my soft life. I wanted you to step up. And I couldn't, I replied simply. You told me that physical intimacy, love, and basic partnership were completely off the table unless I bought you a $60,000 car and a luxury penthouse. You demanded a high-value provider. I looked at my life, my stress levels, and my skyrocketing blood pressure, and I realized something. I paused, letting the silence hang in the air for exactly 3 seconds to make sure she heard every single word. I realized I don't want to provide for you anymore. So, 2 weeks ago, I resigned from my executive director position. I took a remote tech support job with a 50% pay cut. I don't make the kind of money that can fund your aesthetic lifestyle anymore. I removed myself from the equation. You quit your job. The absolute horror in her voice was musical. To her, a man losing his status and income was a fate worse than death. You threw away your career just to punish me? I didn't do it to punish you, Sarah. I did it to save myself. You told me I wasn't enough for you. I agreed. I took my name off the lease, separated my finances, and left. You are now completely free to go find a man who can fund your soft life. There was a heavy, suffocating silence on the other end of the line. The gears in her head were finally turning, calculating the brutal logistics of her immediate future. David, please! Her voice suddenly dropped. The arrogance was entirely gone, replaced by naked, desperate begging. I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have enough credit to hire movers. My parents won't take me in. Please, you can't just abandon me here. I have to be out by 5 p.m. I can't pack a 3-bedroom apartment by myself. You don't have to pack a 3-bedroom apartment, I corrected her gently. My stuff has been gone for 3 days. You only have to pack your own things. Please, I was wrong. I'll take it back. We don't need the car. We don't need the penthouse. Just come back and help me pay the rent. I'll be a good girlfriend, I promise. Hearing the woman who had looked at me with pure disgust just a month ago now, crying and offering her affection in exchange for a roof over her head was the ultimate closure. It proved exactly what I was to her, a transaction. Love isn't a bargaining chip, Sarah, I said softly, and my self-respect isn't for sale anymore. David, please! What am I supposed to do? She screamed, a sound of pure, unadulterated terror. I'd suggest you stop crying and start finding some cardboard boxes, I replied. You have exactly 6 hours and 30 minutes before the building management locks you out. Oh, and Sarah? What? She gasped, a desperate glimmer of hope in her voice, thinking I was going to offer her a lifeline. You can keep the pink leather headrest covers. I pressed the red button, ending the call. I blocked her number. I blocked her on every social media platform. I set my phone down on the wooden table, leaned back in my chair, and took another sip of my coffee. For the first time in my adult life, I had absolutely nothing to worry about. The fallout from that Friday was like watching a slow-motion train wreck from a very safe, very peaceful distance. I didn't hear from Sarah directly for 3 months. I had changed my number, deleted my old social media accounts, and completely vanished into the pine trees of Oregon. My life became brilliantly, beautifully boring. I worked my quiet tech support job, cooked on a cast iron skillet, and watched my blood pressure drop back to normal levels. The dark circles under my eyes vanished. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was actually living. But the internet is a small place, and mutual friends love to gossip. Through the grapevine, I learned exactly what happened at 5 p.m. on that fateful Friday. Sarah didn't make the deadline. When building management arrived to change the locks, she was sitting in the middle of the living room, surrounded by piles of designer clothes she couldn't carry, screaming at the maintenance guy. She was escorted out of the building with only 2 suitcases. The rest of her things were locked inside until she could pay the daily penalty fees, which, of course, she couldn't. Her soft life aesthetic collapsed overnight. She tried to spin the narrative on TikTok, posting a tearful video claiming she was the victim of financial abuse and that her toxic, low-vibration ex had abandoned her. But the internet of 2025 is ruthless and incredibly smart. People immediately started asking questions in her comments. Wait, if he paid for everything, how is it financial abuse? Didn't you just post a video saying you refused to touch him unless he bought you a Tesla? Girl, you played a stupid game and won a stupid prize. The comment section tore her apart. The video backfired so badly that she had to delete her entire account within 48 hours. The digital community she had prized over her real-life relationship had turned on her the second the shiny veneer wore off. Without my income, and with her credit cards maxed out on useless aesthetic garbage like pink leather headrest covers for a car that didn't exist, reality hit her like a freight train. Last week, I received an email at my old secondary email address, the one I used for spam and old subscriptions. It was from Sarah. There was no entitlement in the subject line, just one word. Sorry, and I opened it. David, I know you probably won't read this. I just finished a 10-hour shift at a retail store. My feet are bleeding and my back is killing me. I had to move back into my childhood bedroom at my parents' house. They charge me rent. I'm so exhausted all the time. I keep thinking about how hard you used to work, how tired you always looked when you came home, and how I never even offered to make you dinner. I was living in a fantasy world. I thought I deserved a soft life just for existing. I didn't realize that you were the one bleeding yourself dry to build that life for me. I'm so incredibly sorry. I lost the best thing that ever happened to me. I sat on my porch, reading the words of a woman who had finally woken up to the harsh reality of the real world. She was finally experiencing the exact same burnout she had mocked me for having. The ultimate irony of her situation wasn't lost on me. In her ruthless pursuit of a life without struggle, she had guaranteed herself the hardest, most humiliating reality possible. I didn't reply to the email. I just moved it to the trash folder and emptied it. Some apologies are just confessions of defeat, and I didn't need to hear it. You see, the biggest lie modern culture sells us is that a soft life is about luxury, expensive cars, and refusing to contribute. That's not a soft life. That's parasitism. A real soft life is what I have right now. It's the quiet peace of knowing you are no longer setting yourself on fire to keep an entitled person warm. It's the absolute freedom of looking in the mirror and knowing that your self worth isn't tied to your salary, your job title, or what you can buy for someone else. If someone ever looks at you, hands you a list of financial demands, and tries to use their affection as a bargaining chip, don't argue with them. Don't try to prove your worth. Just agree that they deserve whatever they are asking for. Pack your bags and leave them to go find it themselves. Because the moment you stop funding someone else's delusion, you finally have the resources to fund your own peace. If you've ever had to walk away from a relationship, a friendship, or a job that treated you like an ATM, do me a favor. Scroll down to the comments right now and type the word freedom. Let's show everyone watching that walking away isn't weakness. It's the ultimate power move. Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories about taking your life back, and I'll see you in the next one.